In this video, I'm going to talk about hurdles inside of Dubsado workflows and pain points to watch out for that you really just need to be aware of as you use Dubsado. And this is coming from a certified Dubsado specialist. I have built out so many Dubsados. I help other people build out their Dubsados. And it's just, there's some key things that happen inside of workflows that you need to be aware of to really be set up for success. And I don't know, you're probably not a Dubsado certified specialist. Like, you probably don't know all the ins and outs of this software, this program, like I do. And I just hope this video helps you feel more confident inside of your Dubsado. Okay, so one of the biggest issues right now that's happening with Dubsado workflows is there's not a negative trigger for when a scheduler is not scheduled. So when an appointment is not scheduled, there's not a negative bump that can go out about that like there is with forms, which stinks, but there is ways to use your workflows to continue to follow up. We just have to have it built out a specific way and then pause it once that appointment is scheduled so no other reminders go out. All right, so that's hurdle number one. Hurdle number two is when an appointment is scheduled, either a public scheduler that you have for mini sessions or something, or if it's out in a workflow and that appointment scheduler technically is the same date as your project date, an appointment that gets booked cannot automatically update your project date. And this is a bummer if you do sessions and appointments and the payment plan needs to be paid before that appointment happens. And so your payment plan due dates is before project start date. And you, in your head, your project start date is whenever that appointment date is. You still have to manually add the project start date to match whatever their chosen appointment date is. And I will say it's better to do that, to add the project date after the appointment date has been booked. You can do it the opposite, of course. I just like doing it that way better, honestly, because it's easier to add a project date even if your calendar's blocked from the appointment. If it's the opposite, you have to make sure that your project date has you set as available so that that appointment can be booked on your calendar. Another hurdle I see is in timing of automations in a workflow. If it's not done perfectly, it can cause an error message. So let's say you're booking somebody as an event venue and 6 months before the event, you want to send a specific email. Well, if they book within 6 months of their event, that date in your workflow has already passed. And it's as soon as that workflow gets added to the client's project, it's going to error out because there's a past date in the workflow. And it's okay if that happens. I just need you to be aware that it's a possibility. So know, if somebody's booking close to the date and the automations are all set up to be further out, just know that entire workflow is going to get paused. Another way that I encourage people who really like having those emails built out for the majority of their clients is I'll add a second workflow to the project. When it's okay, client booked, workflow gets added to their project. And at the very end, it's reminder emails get added as an additional workflow as soon as that workflow gets added. So that any of those far out reminders that 6 months before the event, 12 months before the event, if you have people booking far out, and that set of reminder emails might get paused, but it doesn't stop them from getting their welcome email, from getting all the initial emails that they need as soon as they book. So do consider okay, even if it would pause the workflow to have the trigger, if somebody happened to book inside of that time, how can I adjust my automations to make it so it's not a big deal if my workflow pauses? And it's hard to tell when a workflow is paused in Dubsado 2.0, the Dubsado that's live right now as I film this in June of 2025. It's hard to tell. You have to go into your workflow You can say view all workflows, and then you can see every project that that workflow is on and the status of the workflow. But it's really hard to tell if a project's been archived, because once it's archived, the workflow pauses. Like, it's just not a great view. But in the Dubsado 3.0 dashboard, it's much easier to see where your workflows are, what's paused, like where errors are. Like, it's such a better way. So do make sure you use that, but also know that there's ways that you can know when your workflow might cause an error because of timing that it would affect it. Then let's say you have like a 6 months before, but they booked within 6 months. You don't want to send that email because we're not saying like, oh my gosh, we're 6 months out. So you have to go in and mark that workflow item. You have to manually go in and mark it as completed because you don't want it to go out. So we're just gonna like mark it as completed. It'll skip it. It's like skip and mark done, but don't actually do anything is what that means. And then as soon as you do that, at the very bottom of the workflow, you should see it goes from pause to active. If it doesn't automatically do it, you might have to hit like unpause it again to make sure it comes back on and it'll continue to flow. Whenever you get a red error inside of your workflows, something happened to make the workflow pause. And I've seen it, it's usually because of dates and timings. I've also seen it if you happen to change your email password, then Dubsado will lose connection with your email provider. And if you don't have an email hooked up to Dubsado, the email will not send. So you might get a email notification error there. So you have to rehook up your email and then you can send it again. If you have any issues with your smart fields not being created correctly, that will also cause a little red error as well. If you have any questions about specifically what that error means, if you can't figure it out by what it says, in the very bottom right corner of your Dubsado is a little chat bubble, and you can always chat with Dubby, the AI assistant, who's super helpful. And if he can't help you, he, she, it, I don't know. If the AI can't help you, then you can always talk with an actual client experience representative person from Dubsado. They're great. They will also help you figure out why your workflow is pausing. If you have marked a action in your workflow as needing approval, and you don't get to it quickly enough to approve it, and you hit approve, you will also get a red error that says too late to perform action. And you've already approved it, but it will not go, and we just pause the workflow. And in that case, you just have to hit force now to push it out, to make it go out. And whenever I do an approval for a workflow, I never leave the workflow until I've seen it go through. So I'll either refresh the page to see the big check mark on the workflow, or I'll bop over to the emails tab to see that email that I just pushed out, and sometimes both. Because often when it's an approved action in the workflow, it's something that needed to be adjusted, specified. It's some key information for the client that had to be just right. So I want to make sure it goes out. So I'll usually stay in the project a couple beats longer just to make sure it goes out. All right, let's say you do have a client and their workflow with you really does fall outside of your templated workflow. You're able to, once that workflow is on their project, you can edit the triggers, the dates, the timing that are specific for that client, or even the actions as well. Because once you add a workflow to a project, it becomes a duplicate of that workflow onto that project, and then it sits there and you can edit it without affecting your template. The biggest issue though to watch out for is if you make any changes to the template of the workflow. At the bottom, it'll say, do you want to update workflows with this template? And if you say yes, update workflows to match what I just changed, then it's going to override anything that you changed with your custom client. Like, it's going to push an update out everywhere that template's being used across all of your clients. And so if you've made any edits, adjustments specific to that client, you're going to lose those. So that's the biggest thing I would say when updating your workflows, if you have somebody who you've customized. Now, if the actions already ran for that client, like it's check, it's done, when that update gets pushed out, it can't push out something that's already been completed. Like it's not going to force it to go out again. So that's just good to know. I like knowing how these flows are going to get used if it gets pushed out to everybody. If you've added an action, let's say as soon as workflow starts, you want to send in another email or something, and you apply it to all workflows, well, most of those are going to error out because that date has already passed. Like, that's nice moving forward, but for anybody who's already had it on their account, that date, like once it's been applied to workflow, once the workflow has been added to the project, that date happened some time ago. So you're automatically going to get an error inside of your workflow for those projects. So anyways, that's just some stuff to know when you're forcing out updates from your workflow onto projects that have it that you might not think about in the moment. Like it just seems like, oh yeah, I'll just push this update out. And just speaking from experience, there's some things that happen when you do that. So another way that a hurdle within workflows is if a workflow is using a canned email that you've already drafted, and then you go into canned emails and you update that email inside of canned emails, it will not automatically update the workflow email. You have to go back into that workflow and re-pull the canned email to get the updated copy. Whenever you're working inside of Dubsado and you can see, like you pull in a canned email and you can see the subject line in the body, that's no longer just using the canned email, it's using a duplicate version of that canned email, and you can edit it there and it'll hold and save your edited changes it happens in workflows and it happens in the send scheduler in your scheduler templates. But if you pull a canned email and you don't see any body or anything, you can't edit it, like with payment plans, scheduler reminders, that's actually pulling the canned email. So any changes you make to the canned email will pull correctly moving forward. So that's another hurdle. I don't know if they're going to change it with Dubsado 3.0. I know why it happens with workflows, but just know if you have email automations going out with workflows, like your workflows are sending emails, the best place to change and update those are in the workflows. Like canned emails are nice as a reference point if you like typed them out there, but update it in your workflows. And then you can also update them in your canned emails in both places to have the information correct in both places. But the workflow is definitely the place to make sure your wording is correct and your links are correct, everything like that. So yeah, I would say that's like the majority of the hurdles that we are running into with workflow automations today. If you're not sure, like while you're building out your Dubsado or you're using your Dubsado and you want a little bit more manual control as you learn to trust the system and everything, you can always mark things for approval, like items. You can mark them for approval before they go out if you want to look at it before it goes. You can pause a workflow, but no, like it will not unpause until you manually unpause it. So I'd rather mark things for approval or put like to-dos in there to remind me to go in and edit things, to take a look at things. But pausing a workflow on a project will stop that workflow from running at all. So if you do have somebody who you're not sure about, you can absolutely pause it, but then make sure you unpause it once you're ready to move forward with that workflow, because the workflow flows should really work for you. When you work with a client, when you have an offer that you've built out, you have your framework, like you have your way of working with clients, it really should have a system to it, anchoring points throughout the process. Even if you don't automate like all the back and forth figuring out, if you're a brand designer, like maybe you're just going back and forth with a client to figure out what their branding is, you don't yet have that entire situation automated for your client, that's okay. Just have like the initial booking automations for them or something. Like have something automated that you can trust that the system happens, because our workflows build trust for your clients as well. There's a gratification that when we use a workflow that as soon as they book, that workflow sends out a email, a welcome guide, a something, a link to book their first call with you, something to show I'm so excited to work with you. Here's your next step. I don't know, I think it's a non-negotiable with service-based entrepreneurs to have something, even if it's hey, I got all your information. I'll be in touch with next steps within the next 24, 48 business hours. So be sure to keep a lookout for me, but I can't wait to get started. Even if you don't feel comfortable with Dubsado sending forms or schedulers or something, but having something that goes out to boost that confidence and that clarity for your client will go a long, long way. All right, so those are, I think, all the hurdles that I have for you and just good things to know about. If you're looking for other ways to help your clients feel more confident and to keep them from ghosting on you, especially those leads coming in who fill out a inquiry form and then disappear into no man's land, I have a workshop happening on June 26th that is here to support you, making sure you have, yes, the workflows, the system set up, but also the mindset and some other key items in your business that should be put together so that people don't ghost you. You work too hard on what you put out there and what you're doing, and we want to keep them from disappearing on you. So this is a free workshop that I'm doing, and if you cannot join live on June 26th, still sign up and you'll get the replay of it. I cannot wait to share it with you. And if you also sign up for the workshop, I have a massive discount going out for people that have signed up for the workshop for my done for you Dubsado build. So if you just want somebody to go into your Dubsado and build it all out, that's what I do. And every once in a while I offer super special discounts, and this is one of those times. So I hope to see you at the workshop. And if you need any support in your Dubsado, I'm here for you. I'm Lauren with The Smarter Creative. I love helping creative entrepreneurs work smarter in their business instead of harder. I'm here to support you, to be your biggest cheerleader and your fairy biz mother. I will see you in the next video, if not sooner, at the workshop.